Good evening, everyone, and welcome live on the World Racing Network to tonight's broadcast of the TNR Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue Lawn Service. Tonight, it is the Dunay Jewelers 150 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Glad to have you all joining us once again on this Monday night. I am Mitchell Adams, joined tonight by not only Garrett Gleason, but the one and only JD Laird. JD, welcome to the broadcast booth. A little different perspective than you've been having here so far this season. Normally down there on the track and of late leading races, but glad to have you joining us up here in the booth tonight. Should be quite a bit of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice change of pace, not wearing the pixelated driver's suit and putting on the pixelated monkey suit so I can be up here in the broadcast booth. But I figured, I have a prior commitment. I don't know how my jet's going to make it to Atlanta so I can spot my Coke driver Donovan Strauss in the practice races. But we're going to look pretty for at least a little bit tonight.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you up here too, because you can probably give us some good insight on New Hampshire. I know we talked before the broadcast, not necessarily your favorite place, but this is a tricky racetrack for these drivers. It's very unique, not like the cookie cutter mile and a half or even some of the short tracks we see. This is a very unique racetrack. I've always kind of thought of it as a big Martinsville. It doesn't necessarily drive like that, but it's the paperclip shape. But take us through what you would expect on this racetrack, because I've seen in practice drivers have a lot of different approaches to this place.
Yeah, it's definitely different in the sense to where it's, like you said, it's not the normal cookie cutter. It's a flat 1 mile oval. You got to be patient with the throttle, patient with your inputs. You don't want to raffle stomp on the gas and light the tires up, because they'll go away and they'll never come back. So you gotta be really patient. The way everybody looks out there on the track right now, it's a little bit sketchy on throttle, especially on the exits. But if everybody plays calm for the first little bit, everybody minds their P's and Q's, dots their I's, crosses their T's, a lot of letters. But if everybody plays nice, it'll all work out. And that first stage, I believe, is 30 laps, correct?
Yep, 30 laps is the stage break tonight. 150 laps here at the Magic Mile. Pretty quiet racetrack in practice. Not a ton of drivers on the track at the moment. Just over a minute left in practice. Currently, the fastest driver is Tom Bourne over Johnny Eckert in second, and Tristan Thuggy Maher third fastest in practice. Last week at Homestead Miami Speedway, I know, JD, you might not have seen a lot of the other guys racing around you, but Tristan got up there toward the front, had a little bit of an incident trying to get to pit road, cost him a great run, so that's a driver, so he gets a little loose out of 2. I expect that 17 probably going to be pretty hungry tonight. I know you race car drivers, as soon as something doesn't go your way, just motivates you a little bit more to go out and have that good run.
I don't know what you're talking about. We're all angels. We're all for everybody. We're like, oh, we didn't win. That's fine. No, like we're definitely starving. Like it don't matter if you win the next week or win the 3 races prior. You still want to keep going. We're all addicts to strong runs, victories, all that. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm not there. So hopefully it ramps everybody up. I want to see a good show tonight. And with looking at the times right now, seeing everybody somewhat kind of close, I think we might be in for a treat tonight.
Mitchell, let me jump in here real quick. This is like showing up to your football game, and the star quarterback from the other team got caught cheating on the test, and he's no longer starting, all right? You have a chance to win this game. You have a chance to win this race. JD is not out there. Jason Gracias, itching for a win. Philip Scott, itching for a win. Thuggy, like you mentioned. Jake Bustos. There are so many guys that are so glad that JD has another commitment tonight, Mitchell. And this might be their only chance to win a race this season if JD keeps showing up.
Oh, shut up. They'll have more chances than that.
Well, and one thing we've seen, too, you kind of talked about it, the lap times in practice and qualifying have been very close all season long. You had about your top 11 or 12 drivers tonight all within a half a second of each other in practice. So pretty close on lap time, and qualifying, we will see how many drivers decide to take it to the racetrack. This is James Lorello in the number 13, running all the way up near that wall. Try to arc it down and get that straight exit toward his first lap. A lot of drivers quickly out on track for qualifying. Over half the field right now actually taking a qualifying lap. James ran really high up there in turn number 1 and 2. Not a lane I'm as accustomed to, but I don't know, either you or JD or you, Garrett, did either of you get a chance to drive some laps, have a feel for where the speed might be in this racetrack here tonight?
My gear is still in the race shop, so I haven't touched a single lap around here. But just with my prior experience being here, there's a fine line between making it and uh-oh, that was too far. So you gotta be really patient with it, as Thuggy just put it to the top of the board with an 83. I mean, I'm looking at the track temp. The track temp's 34 degrees hotter. Air temp's 82. Track's 116. I think it actually went up a little bit from practice to qualifying. So everybody's trying to learn how much grip do they actually have. And surprisingly enough, somebody left the swamp fans out, and it's only a 10-mile-an-hour wind instead of a 30-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah, that Mother Nature can be a fickle mistress there, guys. But these guys were talking a lot about rotation in practice, Mitchell. I think we're going to see guys dialing that brake bias, trying to get these cars to rotate through the center, and that's where they're going to need to make their speed off, because I think passing opportunities may be a little limited because guys did not run side by side in practice, Mitchell. I think that's going to hurt them here tonight. The race pace versus disqualifying single car pace, I think it's going to be a lot different, a lot slower, and guys are going to have to adapt to that.
This is one of those racetracks where there's so many different ways you can approach it and get through these corners that how you drive the race car is almost more important than the line you take. And that's always a factor, but maybe not as much as it is as a track at New Hampshire, where this is a hot, slick, short track, and you can run high into the corner, you can go a little bit lower, but in the end it kind of comes down to, in those kinds of races, how well you manage your tires. And I know, JD, you have done a very good job of that recently. What would you be trying to do going into this race to try and manage that tire fall off to get yourself more long run speed?
First thing I do is I go to the local store and buy a carton of eggs and put it underneath my gas pedal. You gotta act like you're racing on eggshells. If you crack the egg, the yolk's gonna go everywhere, and that's basically what your tire's gonna do. It's just gonna explode and go everywhere and make a very awful mess. Another thing that a lot of people do is they feel like they need to crank a lot of steering wheel into it. It's like, car's tight, turn more. Nope. You gotta back your corner up. You gotta slow down, drag the brake just a tiny bit. Not a lot, because you can heat up the front tires just with the brake heat. But you gotta, like, your inputs at a track like this is what's gonna make or break you. If you crank the wheel too hard, raffle stomp the gas too hard, you're not gonna get anywhere. If you can manage all of that, big thing. Manage your inputs. Be patient with it. End game goal. 80% is 100% here. Like, you don't need to try that hard to find speed. If you try too hard, it ain't coming back.
Philip Scott, I just realized my mic got muted on the stream somehow. That is my bad. You all have been hearing me, but they haven't. But transitioning over to the race now, it is Philip Scott who will pick up the pole here tonight. We are going to take you through your starting order for the Dunay Jewelers. Can't talk again this week. 150 at New Hampshire. It is Philip Scott starting this race off from the front of the field. To his outside will be Jason Gracias in the Max Graphics #1 machine. Johnny Eckert rolls off third. Tristan Thuggy Maher in fourth. Top 5, Tom Bourne in the number 16. Robert Kenny will start to his outside. Then Mike Floppy Tellier and DJ Weeks make up row number 4. James Lorello and Bill Edwards, S2R teammates, round out your top 10. Jake Busto starts from 11th. Robert Tripp in 12th, and it's Jamar Dumas 13th. Matthew Rodriguez in 14th. Steven Doziak Jr. is 15th. Jason Schue 16th. The tabletop trio car, Bob Giaquinto in 17th. Vincent Valvano lines up to his outside. Then it's Stephen Morgan and Johnny Williams to round out this 20-car field here tonight. Once again, a good-sized field for these drivers to contend with, and that just adds to some of the nerves going into the start of this race. You don't know really what to expect from these drivers around you, like you talked about. Didn't get the chance to run side by side with people a ton in practice. So you've got to imagine these opening couple laps probably going to be taking it a little bit easier, as the 17 of Tristan Maher did not get to the grid to start this race. So the 17 already going to be starting behind the 8 ball here tonight.
I think he'll be all right. I know a Coke driver that missed the grid button, and well, it didn't work out well for him, but hopefully Thuggy is a lot better than a certain Coke driver. He's a teammate of mine who I've got to fly to Atlanta here in about 15 minutes or so. But looks like the pace car lights are off. We're about ready to roll here, and hopefully everybody, like I said earlier, minds their P's and Q's. You gotta get what you can in these first little bit, but you can't overstep it.
Yeah, we will be going green this time. Philip Scott going to lead the field to green. Philip been very good on the short tracks all season long. This is his 3rd pole of 2023, and the green flag waves. We are racing in the Dunay Jewelers 150 at New Hampshire. An already aggressive move into turn 1 by Johnny Eckert. Look at the 90. He's going to go 2 for 1. Can he clear Philip Scott? Yes, he can. What a move by Johnny Eckert through turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, Gracias sliding up a little close right there, but he managed to slip ahead of Scott a little bit. He'll slot back in the P2 with Tom Bourne now looking underneath side of Scott. Run starting to pull a little bit. And that's the thing here, like the outside line can get away with pinching just a little bit. Like not a lot, a little bit. The outside line will prevail because it's just, you bind the car so much running the bottom. Like it goes back, you can't overstep it. If you try so hard, we got to spin in the back.
Caution flag in the air for Matthew Rodriguez on lap number 2. We'll go back on our World Racing Network replay, see what happened. Taking a look at it here. He had that Bubble Yum car down on the inside. Robert Tripp is outside, and I think Tripp was a little further off the wall than Matthew Rodriguez expected there, and those two make contact.
Yeah, it looked like he checked up a little bit off of 2 for some reason. Like, I don't know if like the car stepped out just a tiny bit before Rodriguez got there, but he was off the wall for some reason, and Matthew just expected him to not be there, and he was, and Matt got the bad end of the stick, but he got a little piece of the inside wall, but he did a damn good job to make sure they didn't hit it.
Yeah, whoever's spotting for those guys, I think needs to do a little better job of letting their driver know there's either somebody to their outside or inside. I'm sure when JD goes to spot here in 15, 20 minutes, he's going to be able to tell his driver with a little more certainty, hey, there's room to your outside. You're able to use up the whole racetrack. But like we talked about earlier, these guys have not had that side-by-side practice. I think Matt got into the server late, and that's just the type of thing that happens. Hopefully he'll get that number 51 good-looking hot rod back on the track here with a little bit of damage repair.
Yeah, coming down pit road right now for repairs, and that a break for Tristan Maher in the number 17. He's going to be out on the lead lap. and get caught right back up to the field. Thanks to that caution, he'll start tail end of it. But a big break for Tristan Maher. Sometimes you need a little luck on your side, and that's a great example of that.
Told y'all he'll be all right.
He's out in the chat, said he's not a Coke driver. He's taking the road course down on the backstretch. There is a road course here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. I don't think I've ever seen it raced on iRacing. I'm sure it gets run. Just a little over a mile and a half, 1.6 mile road course here. It's pretty fun too. I've taken some laps at it. And Tristan Maher tried to there.
That is the last time I ran here at the road course was probably a Legends fixed hosted race. Like, people forget like that road course even exists because it's just one of those obscure layouts. But it can put on some fun. Like, it's not a bad little racetrack, as we got a car in the infield in turn 1 for some reason.
That's James Lorello in the number 13. Not clear as Lorello gets going now. It might have had some technical issues, maybe a steering wheel.
That's out of P7. He's got back going now. Oh, there's something else wrong with him right now. He just hit the wall off of 2. Something's wrong with the steering wheel or steering itself. And he can't even get it into gear. Something's wrong as the pace car is about ready to duck on off.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on Lorello as this race gets ready to go. Green flag once again. Johnny Eckert on the loud pedal. A great start. Took the outside lane. I don't think necessarily surprising to see that, given how well that outside is able to roll through the corners. Philip Scott, your pole sitter, falling back through the field a little bit. Now in 4th place behind Tom Bourne. Some aggressive moves in the back of the field. That's Bill Edwards looking under Jamar Dumas for the 9th position.
Yeah, he was going to be somebody that I was going to bring up. Like, he should have been up in the top 5, top 6 easy in qualifying. So he put himself a little bit on the back foot. But I saw what he did at Homestead. Like, he popped out of nowhere. So expect him probably maybe by the end of the stage, if not by halfway of this race. He'll be sniffing that lead group here momentarily.
Bill Edwards, another driver this season who's been very good at saving tires and managing for the long run. This is Bob Giaquinto and Robert Tripp battling. You see the damage on Tripp from his contact with Matthew Rodriguez, who runs right behind him. And Tristan Maher got really loose out of turn number 4. But that number 17 up 3 positions, now 4 already since the restart. Matthew Rodriguez trying to fight back on the outside lane, though. It's single file up toward the front, but back in the field, quite a bit of side-by-side action right now.
Yeah, it's Dougie goes for a dive, and he's going to make that work. But one thing I was going to touch on is the damage, like you see on the side of the 35 car. Rodriguez has got a little bit on the right front. This car is paper mache. Like, if you breathe on it, breathe the wall the wrong way, it's going to hurt the performance of this car. It's not like the next gen. It's not like anything else, which I hate to reference it, the new damage model. It can take a hit. These cars can't. You fart on this car the wrong way, you're going to be down on straight speed. So Robert Tripp's in for a little bit of a long haul here. Hopefully he can get a win at the stage. It doesn't hurt him too bad, and he can get most of that, if not all of that, fixed.
One thing I've noticed from some drivers, and not all drivers have had this issue, as you see Matthew Rodriguez gets around Robert Tripp. Some of these guys seem to really be struggling to get that car into the corners. It likes to get a little bit squirrely, move up the racetrack before they can get it settled down, and Tripp gets into the wall out of turn number 2. Just salt on the wound for that number 35. Not been a great start to this race for him, is battling back up a little bit further up. Bob Giaquinto trying to make the move on Vincent Valvano, but car handling at a track like this, very difficult to find. You have to set these cars up loose to make it around the corner. So that sometimes it makes that corner entry, corner exit a little bit difficult.
Yeah, and with everybody sliding up in the center of the corner, like, I would be trying to keep it kind of pinned down a little bit more, knowing that if you're able to set it in there and just sliding up, like, yeah, you don't want to crank on the wheel, but you don't want to really fly up that far. Because what you got to do in the center corner, you got to crank it back down so you can get a run off the corner. In theory, it makes sense because you make your straightaways longer, but that little extra crank in the center of the corner to get it down to the bottom to make your straightaway longer, that's where you lose a little bit of time too. It's about backing your corners up. You can keep, like I've said, I'm like a broken record. Like, manage the inputs. Don't try to do so much work. Track's hot in the middle of the day. Xfinity car's a little bit rough to drive with the low downforce that we got. There's no point in trying to force the issue, especially when you know you got a caution coming at 17 laps.
Yeah, what we've seen in a lot of races too is drivers really just racing to that first stage, trying to feel out their race cars before getting too aggressive. As we see the battle for the lead starting to heat up a little bit, Jason Gracias now closing in on the back bumper of Johnny Eckert for this race lead. Eckert got up to the race lead again on the initial start of this race, past Jason Gracias and Philip Scott through turns 1 and 2. And he's held it ever since. A little wiggle, though, out of turn number 2, which is to be expected at this racetrack. You see the difference in the lines they're running as well there. Through 3 and 4, Eckert entered high, then cut low, and is pretty much the opposite from Jason Gracias. He entered a little bit lower and let that car slide up. And you see the momentum on the straightaway Jason Gracias is getting because of that. Of course, that time they run almost the same line through 1 and 2, but I have a feeling Johnny Eckert might be slowing up Jason Gracias a little bit, because you see Tom Bourne in the 16 starting to creep up behind him. So is Philip Scott.
Yeah, like one thing that you just saw right there, they're both Eckert and Gracias are both doing that whole like mega diamond, especially in 3 and 4. It might work as you see Jason trying to do a little bit more of a late entry and fly up even more. One other thing that I forgot about this car is clean air is king. Like with Eckert being out front, Gracias might be faster than him at this point, but when you can't get around him or at least get the clean air to at least have a shot, like, you're gonna be stuck. So you gotta do stuff in your power. You gotta make sure that you can find the clean air so you're not stuck behind him, because if you can't pass him, the only thing you can do is sit there and just save tires. But if you tuck up on him like he is right now, we're going fast enough to where the dirty air is going to cause a problem, which is why it's gonna let these other two with Bourne and Scott, they've reeled these two back in. They just been sitting there minding their P's and Q's. They're just running around doing laps, logging laps. So now we got a 4-car pack because these two are really trying hard to make sure that they can get to the lead. As we're rolling up in a lap car, oh god, that was the 69. That caught everybody off guard, even me for a little bit.
Yeah, Stephen Morgan tried to check up on the corner entry, let those leaders by. It got a little bit sketchy, but everyone gets through it all right. An update on James Lorello. That car sitting on pit road 8 laps down as someone got into the wall back there. I believe that was the 69 of Morgan. Yes, it was.
Nothing like an unexpected 69, Mitchell, to really get your heart pumping. But these guys, this 4-car breakaway, I'm keeping my eye on the 99 of Philip Scott. Back in the past, Philip would lose that lead from the pole, and he would put that in his head, and that would bother him all race long, and he would struggle and struggle and struggle. It looks like he's settled in here in 4th place. I'm looking for him to try to make up some ground on pit stops and get back to that lead. I don't think he's going to give up and beat himself like he would in the past.
Yeah, there's 2 things as a driver, and I've been both real world and the computer screen. 2 things that I've learned. You can't win the race on lap 1, and you don't win races finishing second. So you got to, like, if something goes wrong at any point in the race, start of the race, you qualify on pole, get kicked back to 4th, 5th, block it out. All windshield. That's what I tell my driver Donovan Strauss in the Coke races. All windshield. Like, whatever happens, you can't fix it anymore. You just got to deal with it, figure out a way to cope with it, and move on. Scott qualified on pole, fell to 4th. Like you said, if it was last season or last year, he would have lost his mind. Now he's sat there and he's just sitting there cruising. Right? And it was kind of like that. And somebody is going, hello. All right, apparently somebody at the airport is trying to get my attention or something. I don't know. But like, one of the things that you have to put in your head as a competitive driver that you can't let stuff like that get to you. So the fact that he's sitting there just sniffing his lead group is getting really spicy for second here. Bourne about got into the back of Gracias doing that cutback. Oh, and he gets a lot tight off of 4. Whew. These guys are really going for a swing here. Like I'd be chilling. Like as he tries to make the inside of the corner really tight on the exit, but that goes back to that pinch that I said earlier. Like it's really hard to make the bottom work. Like you can pinch a little bit and make an advantage out of it, but it's all about just like I was talking about Scott. Keep going windshield, all windshield. Just focus on logging laps. The more laps you log and don't worry about that little mirror that's up in the top right, the more your day will be a lot easier.
If I'm Philip Scott, I'm pretty content to sit in 4th place where I am right now. It's decent stage points, and watching these guys battle up here in the top 3, it is getting pretty dicey. That was an aggressive move Tom Bourne made just a lap ago on Jason Gracias. But that shows, and that goes back to, again, Tom Bourne feels like he's faster. He doesn't want to sit behind Jason Gracias, even though there's just 7 laps to go in this first stage. He doesn't want to hold that 16 car back and hurt his chances. You see Johnny Williams coming out of pit road now. He's now 4 laps down. Stephen Morgan 1 lap down, is in position for the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award when this first caution comes out. These top 4 have completely broken away from 5th place Robert Kenny, 3 seconds behind. But pretty much equal pace from all these drivers. And from a competitive standpoint, Garrett, I know you can speak to this. That's exactly what you want to see in these races.
Yeah, for sure, Mitchell. We want to see guys out there battling, and we want to see them on the razor's edge as far as being able to drive their race car, handle their race car, but do it in a fun but safe manner. And right now, you can't really ask for much more than seeing these front 4 locked nose to tail coming up on our stage break. I mean, these guys are going to be able to take this first stage, what they've learned, come to pit road, get some fresh tires, and get out back there with a chance to make up some positions on the restart. And we're going to see some even better action, I think, Mitchell.
Got another good battle a little further back on the track. Mike Tellier being chased by DJ Weeks and Bill Edwards. These cars also right under a blanket as Edwards makes a look up the inside, possibly on Weeks, couldn't make it stick. Another good battle behind him as well. That's Jamar Dumas being challenged by Tristan Maher. Tristan trying to get up inside the top 10 if he completes this pass. And that's good progress in the first stage. You talk about catching the break, getting back on the lead lap. You can't run up through this field too fast. It's going to be too difficult on your tires. So I like the steady progression we're seeing from Tristan. He's got good lap time, and now he's starting to find that track position.
One thing that I'm kind of keeping an eye on that front 4 just a little bit more. One thing that Johnny Eckert's starting to do, he did it that last lap, and he did it I believe he did it a couple of times prior. I hope it's not a sound glitch, but they're starting to shift. The time's slowed down. Last lap, these lead guys are running 5s and 6s. We started this race at the third, like looking at Gross this time. We started at 31:10, and we're at a 32:40, 32:50, 32:60 in that range. We've already fallen off a second and a half. So shifting might actually be a thing in the long run, but with that, you got to keep the power band. That keeps the power band up, as that got really close again with the lap car. Woo. But you got to, like, with shifting, like, you're gonna burn. Man, these guys are getting after it. But one thing that you have to keep worrying about with shifting is that you're gonna cause more wheel spin to get it to rotate. So you're just gonna burn your tires off even more. I know when I usually run races here that shifting is a thing. I usually prolong the shifting as long as I possibly can. I don't. If you guys can't pass me when I'm not shifting, I don't need to shift. But as soon as you guys really start causing a problem, then I'll start to shift. But by then, my tires are probably better than yours anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys handle the next 120 laps as we're on the white flag of the stage.
I think this stage finish could get really interesting. Jason Gracias, I think there was contact between him and the 90. I think he made contact with that front bumper. We'll see how much he wants to push the issue here. Through 3 and 4, looks pretty content with that second place as they exit the corner. Johnny Eckert gonna cross the line to pick up the stage win here tonight in the Dunay Jewelers 150. Of course, still a long way left to go in this one, and a 1.5 seconds fall off in 30 laps. The fuel run is twice that, so you're gonna see much more fall off coming up later on in this race. And you've got to keep in mind, as one of these drivers, we've had a lot of races go green flag except for this stage caution. So you might have to buckle in and get ready to do some aggressive tire saving here.
Yeah, you might have to a little bit, but one thing with this fall off, it's like it may be a 60 lap run in practice, but the times are really, with the time slowing down, you're going to start using less fuel, and you might be able to save that to where 60 laps isn't going to be the borderline. Plus we're on lap 32. So we're not going to be splitting this 120 laps even 60. It's going to be about 55. So if it's a 60 lap run, then it's an easy one stop from here. But it'll be entertaining to see how these guys can manage it. And it has, like we expected. Here comes the field.
Yeah, the field getting ready to head down pit road. Stage results from stage 1. Johnny Eckert with the win. Jason Gracia second. Tom Bourne third. Philip Scott fourth. Robert Kinney fifth. Jake Busto sixth. Mike Tellier seventh. And Bill Edwards in eighth are your drivers who score stage points here at New Hampshire. Probably no one getting off strategy at this point. 4 tires and fuel going to be the call for everyone here. At this point in the race, this is a tough track to even pull the two-tire strategy on, too, with just how difficult it is to wheel these cars around here. As Gracia slid out of his pit box, gave it an effort, but Johnny Eckert will hold on to that race lead. And this is one of those tracks, you got to get it out of pit road to get to that blue cone. This is a very difficult pit exit just because of how narrow it is getting off of pit road. I've seen drivers penalized here probably more than any other track for those pit exit violations. That's just another factor you've got to worry about if you're one of these drivers here tonight.
Yeah, like when we get that green flag pit stop, it's going to be a very, 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 very tight exit. But I guess since we're under caution here, I have to break some bad news to you guys, and it's not the bad news that you're expecting.
Not Aaron Rodgers to the Jets? Is that no?
No. But it involves a jet. Apparently there was a iracing issue, not necessarily an issue, but they locked down the servers to deal with license promotions. So y'all got me in the broadcast booth for the whole race now because my driver couldn't make it to Atlanta. So you get to put up with me for another 125 laps.
Get the confetti on the screen for that. Welcome to the full-time broadcast booth for one race.
Yeah, like I was like ready to I was already undoing my suit top and everything to get on the jet, putting on the Donovan Strauss 51 apparel, and now I gotta put the stuff back on now because apparently my guy couldn't make it. So, all right, I guess I can put the tie back on. Fine.
We're supposed to be wearing a tie in this booth? I'm 50-50 on wearing pants in the booth.
I never said where the tie was located.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, we're glad to have you with us for the rest of this one, too, if you'd like to stick around. It should be a pretty good one here from the looks of things as those iRacing pace car lights go out. So we're going to get ready to restart the rest of this race. Johnny Eckert once again taking that outside lane. I expect we're probably going to see leaders in the outside lane most of the rest of this race. Philip Scott starting in 5th, Robert Kinney 4th, Tom Bourne in 3rd, Jason Gracias in 2nd, and of course your race leader. Tristan Maher dropped a couple spots, keeping an eye on that 17 just because we're watching him try and move up through the field. Down to 12th here after that pit cycle, but a very fast race car for him. As the pace car gonna pull down the pace truck rather here. And we are gonna restart this race. Green flag in the air, another great jump for that 90 of Johnny Eckert. Gracias kept with them all right on that start, but gonna get clear for the race lead. Now the battle seems to be for 4th place. Is almost 3 wide, Mike Tellier. And I think for a moment they were 3 wide. Contact with Philip Scott. Caution flag in the air. Scott goes around. Bill Edwards involved. Matthew Rodriguez, and we are under yellow flag. That happened very quickly. Take a look back on the World Racing Network replay. We'll go to the aerial cam first. Keep our eyes on Mike Tellier, that Hello Kitty car. Matthew Rodriguez comes with a ton of speed up the outside. And I think they knew Rodriguez was there, but just things got a little bit tight on exit. And unfortunately for drivers like Philip Scott, Bill Edwards, heavy contact for all those guys.
Yeah, that looked like one of those really tough deals to where Tellier saw that somebody was creeping on his right rear quarter, and he knows if he tries to clear himself, he's in the wall. But it seemed like it was either just not enough time and it got real tight, and Philip didn't even know that they were even potentially through that because it came so late. And he was just a victim of circumstances, that 99 car. That's a tough break.
Yeah, nothing in that position you can do if you're Philip Scott. We'll ride on board with Bill Edwards, driver of the Fatal Concepts number 5 machine. You're going to see this wreck happen in front of him. Rodriguez just comes up off the corner, and I don't know that Tellier quite knew he was going to be there. And you see Philip just slide down the racetrack. No way to really prepare for that. I don't think it was a significant amount of damage for Bill Edwards. A little bit crinkled up on the front end. Hopefully that race car will be okay, but for drivers like Philip Scott, as you see, pretty hefty damage there looking back live. Philip sitting in the pits, getting repairs. He is likely going to be there for a little while with all the damage he took there in that incident.
Since I never took a lap, I don't know if we're running the New Hampshire open setup or the default setup, but if it's the open setup, I'd be really worried about some nose damage, because that means this thing's taped up pretty close to max, and these cars don't really cool off very well when you get nose damage. Like, you have to know a couple tricks of the trade to manage temps, because it's not exactly how you would think. But for somebody like Bill that got a little piece of nose damage out of that wreck, I'd be a little worried if I was him.
I believe the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award went to Stephen Morgan on this one. So if it was, congratulations to Stephen. He will get a lap back here under this caution. And we, I believe, are getting ready to restart this race again. No, not quite. Which is good, because it gives me an opportunity to tell you a little bit about tonight's race sponsor, Dunay Jewelers. It is the Dunay Jewelers 150. Big thank you to them for coming on board and sponsoring tonight's race. They are located in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. They've been family-owned and operated.
Wilkes-Barre.
Wilkes-Barre. Oh, see, thank you, Garrett. Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, my mistake. They've been family-owned and operated since 1969. They have a large collection of jewelry. They do professional repair and more. If you want to find out more about Dunay Jewelers, you can call them 570-822-5511 or visit DunayJewelers.com for more information, and that link down in the video description here tonight. A big thank you again to them for coming on board and sponsoring tonight's race.
Yeah, there's multiple pronunciations there. We have Wilkes-Barre, but whatever you said, that I don't think that was close. So whatever we want to go with, but we appreciate them being on board, and appreciate Steven being in TNR for a second race here as we're getting ready to go back green.
Yeah, green flag back in the air. It is Johnny Eckert once again with the good start. The 17th.
Oh, no spin in the back. 97's around.
Oh, yes. I think a lot of drivers managed to get through it, but we are back under caution again.
Yeah, I just happened to catch that like out of the corner of my eye a little bit. I was just watching the field kind of roll through. I was paying attention to Thuggy, and all of a sudden I see this white car just get turned in the back. I'm like, oh, that's... Hopefully he doesn't get hit, but it looks like everybody did a good job to make sure that they didn't pile into him.
Yeah, it seemed to be a pretty isolated incident just with that 97, the contact from Mike Tellier. Has it been a good couple laps for Tellier? We'll ride on board with him. But got involved in that last caution, and you'll see here, not doing too much, just kind of misjudged the entry. I think not Bustos, that's my bad, that's DJ Weeks. Might have checked up a little more than he expected, and then around goes the 97. Not too much damage on either race car from that one.
Yeah, he took a nice shot in the left rear. Floppy came in there and, flopped around in there. And now DJ's rear end is kind of even on both sides as far as damage. That might hurt him a little bit. Like, as I said earlier, this car is paper mache. Like, you don't want to breathe on this car the wrong way when you start getting damaged, or it might really start to hinder the car. But hopefully it's not too bad and he can get back out there and fix it up pretty good.
Mike Tellier down pit road. DJ Weeks also, no surprise there. Also, Jamar Dumas and Jason Schue pitting under this caution. The Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award once again going to Stephen Morgan in the number 69. Got Competitive Jewelers here tonight. Oh no, that is Dunay Jewelers. That's my bad. On the hood of that car. So he will now be 4 laps down, courtesy of our friends at Tabletop Trio. You can check them out on Twitch, twitch.tv/Tabletop Trio. And that is good for Stephen Morgan, because if you're sitting multiple laps down like this, you like the repeat cautions. But if you're everybody else in the field on the lead lap, really, you want to see this race get going green a little bit, but the old adage, cautions breed cautions, that's leading to be true here tonight. And you've had a lot of experience lately, JD, leading some of these races. If you're the leader here, Johnny Eckert, you don't like the repeat cautions either, because that kind of shows what you're doing on these restarts, and you have to keep coming up with new things to do to keep getting those jumps. Because we've seen Jason Gracias, he's progressively stayed a little bit closer to Eckert on these restarts, and that just comes from the experience of doing it over and over again.
Yeah, one thing that Johnny's been doing is picking the outside. Not only does it force the inside car to not kind of lead him into the box, because we have the restart box enabled, so you kind of flirt that line between, am I going to break this rule or not, trying to lead him into the box. But one thing that is also forcing him is it's forcing Jason to look to the right, which is further away than where he's sitting. So he has to essentially lay back a little bit so he could even see him and try to time it. So it effectively puts it in Johnny's hands as far as where he can go and where he cannot go. And with it being on the outside, you have the advantage, if he gets a good start, to get into turn 1 and pinch him down to the bottom and get a drive off.
Driver we highlighted there right before that caution started is Tristan Maher, now up into the top 5. These cautions have really helped that 17, and he has now cracked the top 5. We'll keep an eye on him as this race goes back. Green flag. Tom Bourne didn't get a good start there. Neither did Robert Kenny. And these front two going to break away side by side into turn number 1.
Jason did a hell of a job. Like, I don't know if he's paying attention to me or not, or he just knew, because he hit that start perfect. But it goes to show you, Johnny's on the outside line. All he has to do is pinch him just a tiny bit through the center of 1 and 2, and it's like, hey, guess what? You can't get on the gas before I can. Bye, see ya, and drive off down the straightaway. He clears him.
Johnny Eckert cleared for the race lead. This is the battle for 4th place. Tristan
we
Maher
got
makes
problems.
contact. Robert Kinney, they go around. Bill Edwards hard into him, nowhere to go. Caution flag back in the air for a big pile up in turn 1. That is heavy damage for Bill Edwards there.
Yeah, this is just a product of this kind of racing in a way to where it's so, like, you need to kind of get everything now, because if those tires were off, you're not going to make anything happen. And I was just, I don't want to say it was a product of over-aggressiveness, because I don't really think it was. I think it was just a product of really, really close racing, a little bit of certain things I don't want to say as far as how this game goes. But it's the elbows are starting to come out, the gloves are starting to come on, and we're not even at halfway yet.
We'll go on boards with Bill Edwards for this one too. That's just a situation where they both wanted to be in the same place on the racetrack. You see the contact, and then Bill Edwards just gets sandwiched right between them. That is the worst possible way that could have ended up for Bill Edwards, and there's really nothing he can do either about that, because that wrecked right in front of him.
Yeah, from a spotter's point of view, like, I would be screaming that he needs to check up and go to the top, but when you have all that happen in front of you and you get stuck, like he was focused on the 34 just a little bit, and you lock yourself into the, like, a little bit of a tunnel vision, and it's tough to get out of those situations. I've been bit by it multiple times. So it's just a matter of, like in a situation like that where the whole track just gets smoked up in front of you, you're starting to see door numbers instead of rear bumpers. You're like, and you end up being in that situation, and it's just tough. Like, I mean, it's lap 48, 49, 50, and we're not even at halfway yet, and we're tearing some stuff up. It's gonna be a long night for some of these guys.
Mitchell, I'm hoping from an administrative perspective that one of our leaders, one of our lead admins here, has a talk with everyone and tells these guys, hey, we're only a third of the way through this. I know you need to be aggressive at restarts, but let's have some give and take. Let's not run each other over. We're diminishing the product here. This can put on a good race. We can have a good race. Let's get there. And I think these guys are just being a little overly aggressive right now, knowing that perhaps JD's not in the field. This might be their chance to win, or whatever. They think, hey, I got a better car than these guys in front of me. I'm going to make this happen. And I think we see a lot of guys forcing the issue, and it is way too early for that.
Well, we just talked about drivers who'd worked their way up through the field. Tristan Maher, involved in that one, took a big spin, as did Robert Kinney. They both find themselves no longer battling for 4th place. They are at the tail end of this lead lap. Once again, though, the big winner under this caution is Stephen Morgan. Another tabletop trio Lucky Dog award goes to him. Now just 3 laps down, trying to creep his way back onto the lead lap. And if things go at the rate they're going, he might have a decent chance to get a little bit closer. Of course, we'd like to see this race get green flag. We've seen some really good competitive racing that first stage, especially. We had one caution, but other than that, it went green. Tristan Maher in the chat says not to tell him what to do, Garrett. As this field getting ready to restart again, getting double filed up once again. And again, Johnny Eckert on the outside lane, no surprise. But Jason Gracias the last time got the great restart. Now, can he do it again? And can he take advantage of it and get around Johnny Eckert this time? That'll be the big question here.
If I was Johnny, I would be really considering how I attack this restart, because you're starting to be, if that good of a restart right out of the box from Jason, you're starting to become predictable. As a driver, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna lay off the pace car a little bit. Even though we have a restart box, it just changes the anticipation. Start going later in the box. Go in the middle of the box. Do something, because you have to change the game up to make sure that you don't have that restart coming to happen again as the pace car is about ready to duck on off.
Through all of these cautions, the 3 Outlaw Racing cars all up inside the top 5. That's something to keep an eye on. Green flag waves once again, and that time a little bit better of a start for Johnny Eckert. Side by side, Jason Gracias slides up into 2nd place. Now the battle for 3rd between Tom Bourne and Jake Bustos. Those two got a little bit tight out of the corner. And look at Vincent Valvano up here running in 6th. Garrett, we talk a lot about Vincent Valvano and how he's been able to put some really good consistent runs together. And on a night like tonight where it's turning into a race of attrition, keeping that car clean, put himself in a great position here about a 3rd race distance.
Yeah, I always mention that Vinny's the gentleman of Total Nonstop Racing. He's quiet, he's soft-spoken, and he's just kind of meticulously working his way up through the field. And I love to see Vinny in a competitive race car, having a competitive race, and out there having fun, as we see 47 of Mike Tellier trying to get all he can getting under the 64 of Valvano there. But these guys, I guess my little speech didn't work, because these guys look like they're going to be pretty aggressive trying to get some spots here after this restart.
Yeah, one thing that's going to be interesting, I don't have any laps, from like I said earlier, is the heat cycles. These heat cycles, getting a couple of laps in, cooling back down, throwing some laps in it, cooling it back down, and not changing tires. Like it would technically give the feeling of these tires greasing up a tiny bit. Like you wouldn't be able to restart it correctly. You won't have as much grip coming off the corner, maybe even through the whole corner. Maybe even even slightly down the straightaway coming off the corner, it might be a little bit like, why is it kind of walking around a little bit? So these guys need to get some laps in just to at least get to a point to where these tires kind of wake back up a little bit. I know I said before that they'll once you burn them, they'll never come back. In a situation like that, they got a little bit of a time frame to where you can attempt to bring a little bit of life back into it, but it's tough. Like these guys are probably going to try to start searching around for lanes, maybe running the bottom a little bit more, maybe running slightly lane up. It's going to be a very interesting next few laps to figure out what these guys do.
Up at the front of the field, it's a slightly different complexion from what we've been seeing. It's pretty much a 2-car breakaway. Johnny Eckert and Jason Gracias have about a quarter second between them. Pretty much single file spread out from there, side by side between Mike Tellier and Vincent Valvano. Tellier thought he might slide up. Yeah, that was a little bit tight out of turn 4. I don't know, Vinny gonna be completely thrilled with how that one went down, but Tellier will take the position away as Valvano tries to fight back on the inside lane, but the momentum from the outside gonna carry Tellier up to that position. We single file it out once again. I think that was Jamar Dumas making the move on Bill Edwards. Bill, at this point, you see the damage. He's just trying to hang on and do what he can, but unfortunately for the driver who comes into tonight as the points leader, there's not much you can do to fix that race car.
No, like you would think that, oh, it's trying to keep it cool, right? Like there's no front bumper, there's no tape on it. No, like the way this game simulates it, like the cooling's all screwed on that thing, and there's no downforce on the front of that car, so that thing is basically like a backwards beluga whale trying to go around here. It's not anything good at all. So he's just out here hoping for the best and maybe some mischief at the end of the race, which I don't want to see. But if we get a little bit of mischief, he's going to try to cash in on it. But he's just along for the ride and going to try to get as many points as he can.
Well, we've seen enough of that here thus far in the Dunay Jewelers 150, just past 1/3 race distance. You see Philip Scott now moving on to Bill Edwards, going to maybe try and challenge for that position. Out at the front, Johnny Eckert has stretched a half a second now over Jason Gracias for that race lead. And I wonder, because we know these drivers pretty close on pace, it's possible this separation because of those heat cycles, but it's also possible that you have drivers just trying to save tires at different paces at this point, as you see a bigger gap has formed up a little quicker, already 2.5 seconds back to Jake Bustos in 4th. You think maybe some drivers are just saving tires more aggressively than these couple of race leaders here up front?
Possibly. Towards the end of that stage, the 34 and the 16 were starting to catch that front 3 before the end of the stage break. So to see Tom just hanging, sniffing off those top 2 a little bit and yarding what's behind him, he might have a little bit of an ace up his sleeve. He might have figured something out and he's just chilling. might be paying attention to the broadcast, which I'd be amazed and call him crazy if he'd be listening to us in the middle of a race. But he's just buying his time. Like, that's what essentially both him as well as Johnny and Jason are doing. They're just sitting there buying their own time. Like, yeah, cool. Like, as we got to move for fourth here, his teammates are going to go through here, and the 97 sneaks by his teammate. But with these front three, they're probably on a little bit of a cruise, right? Tom probably even more so because, like I said, at the end of that stage, he started to reel him back in. So maybe he's got that ace up his sleeve. Maybe he knows by about lap 30, I might be better than you guys, and I'm just going to sit here now that I'm here.
And you're not going to see as much of the aggressive racing likely that we saw there toward the end of stage 1, knowing that you have just under 100 laps left to go in this race still. Probably not going to see Jason Gracias using that front bumper quite like he did for a while, but these top three have compressed a little bit. Gracias now back to 0.2 of a second behind Eckert for the lead. Tom Bourne a half second back, so almost equal distance between these cars as Gracias tries to work the low end of the racetrack. But other than the really impressive move Eckert did on the initial start of the race, we haven't seen that inside complete a ton of passes once these tires get heated up. I feel like more of the moves have been made on the outside lane, but it's tough to move one of these drivers out of that outside groove because you know it's faster and you're going to defend that lane.
Yeah, it's very inviting to go down there. Like, if this had like twice the cars on there, we got 18 on the racetrack now. If we had like a full Xfinity field of 36, 38, 40 cars, that bottom would become a thing because everybody's going to be doing what these guys are doing now, drifting up, carrying the momentum, coming back down. That bottom will become more inviting. With what we have now, that bottom it doesn't have it because the top still keeps more in it. So it's going to be really difficult to make any sort of move, especially as the run goes on.
Tom Bourne putting a little bit of pressure onto Jason Gracias now for the second position. We saw that in that first stage too. Tom Bourne's car came to life at about this point in the run, and he is once again trying to put pressure on Gracias, but you can't run behind that car in front of you for too long because you're going to heat up your tires and then you're going to slip back a little bit and have to take a couple laps to cool them off as they work past the lap car, Stephen Morgan. Pass for the 6th position, Vincent Valvano made his way around Mike Tellier. Saw that one just off screen there a lap ago. That 64 improves the position. Robert Kenny also just got around Bob Giaquinto for 10th. But up front, it's about the same thing now we've been seeing between your top two. And that is Jason Gracias running behind Johnny Eckert. And this is something we haven't seen, which could be the extended green flag run. Because we've seen how these drivers fare through a short run and the middle run. And it seemed like Jason Gracias was a little bit quicker toward the end of that stage. But we haven't seen these guys do an extended tire run yet. So we really don't know what to expect in terms of whose car's going to really come to life. But right now, Johnny Eckert is doing a good job managing the pressure from Gracias and keeping him behind him.
It's really easy to manage the pressure when you got nobody to look at, nobody's rear bumper to look at in front of you, all windshield. He's doing his best to kind of play with the dirty air a little bit, giving Jason a little bit of a tease, with like coming with a lower entry and then washing right up into the air and coming back down. So that was a hell of an entry that Jason did there. It looked like he just misjudged it just by a tiny bit, but he did a good job getting off the corner, getting it slowed down to get the drive off. But one thing that these two or three are doing up here, they're doing a good job managing their lap times. Right? These guys are consistently a 1/10 and a half, 2/10 quicker than everybody behind them, except the 97. The 97's been running about mid 40s to low 50s. The Eckert and Gracias have been trading off between low 30s, low 40s. Tom Bourne's been doing the same, a little bit more inconsistent, but still in that same range. But DJ's just been. If I said Bustos, I'm sorry, but it's DJ Weeks in fourth. It's just been. He broke away from this group, and he's been able to kind of pull this off. Like he's given himself a little bit of a gap and saying, "All right, I got no pressure behind me or in front of me right now, so I'm just gonna run laps, do my best to keep these Goodyear Eagles underneath me, and maybe I can reel these guys back in because they should be getting kind of close to pit stops here, I believe."
We are probably approaching in the next 10 or 15 laps the point where some drivers will pull down into pit road. You were right about that. And when you run identical paint schemes, you do open the door to being confused by the broadcast crew. I've done it tonight. We've done that throughout the races, but that's just the challenge. They keep us on our toes a little bit. Almost contact between Mike Tellier and Matthew Rodriguez through turns 1 and 2. As if those two haven't seen enough of each other here tonight. I feel like they've come together at multiple points in this race. We saw the 64 of Valvano. He was trying to challenge Jake Bustos for the 5th place position. He's kind of fallen off the back bumper of that 74. But again, good pace from Vincent Valvano, and we've seen decent long run speed from him this season, so expect that car to have some good pace as this run goes on. See Robert Kinney as well and Tristan Maher. They're running pretty close here for the 9th position, currently occupied by Robert Kinney. Also a little further back in the pack, Bob Giaquinto and Jamar Dumas have been going to battle a little bit. Those two within 2/10 of each other as well. And that's what we've seen the last couple of races. There's been great battles through the pack. It hasn't been just up front where we typically keep the cameras. We've seen good racing throughout the pack, and that's one thing that makes these TNR races so entertaining to watch is there's a lot of guys who are very close skill-wise and speed-wise, and it puts on some great racing for us.
Yeah, like New Hampshire's underrated in that sense to where, I mean, everybody's used to it, you know, kind of being like how it was after the first stage, kind of that that was a almost very bad situation between 28 and 23. But one thing that New Hampshire does is that it can bring out a good race, but it can go upside down, topsy-turvy really quick, like we saw at the end of the stage. But now it looks like everybody's kind of held their own. They put their parts in their purse and left their purse in the trailer, and they decided to kind of figure out what it's like to see, 5 laps into a run or something like that. And we're about maybe 15 or 20 away from pit stops here. I mean, all the cautions that we had probably stretched the fuel out, so you could probably go to maybe 100. But the thing here is with the fall off being so big, is that you can gain so much time being that first or second car on pit road, but if you can't manage your tires good enough when you have that advantage, you're going to give it up very, very quickly. So you don't really necessarily want to be the first one on the pit road. You might want to be the second or third one on pit road, just to say, hey, now I have the tire advantage. You had the track advantage. Now I have a tire advantage. I'm going to save it better than you can.
There's a lot of power in short pitting these races. When you have a 1.5 seconds, 2 second fall off like we've seen tonight, just pitting a lap or two earlier, all of a sudden a 3 or 4 second deficit can go right away if you execute on the pit stop right. The battle for second place heating up once again between Jason Gracias and Tom Bourne. Bourne almost got the wall, got tight out of turn 2. And at this point in the run, your car is either starting to swing really loose or more likely really tight, knowing how these cars tend to drive at this racetrack. That's kind of what we saw from Jamar Dumas there when he was battling with Bob Giaquinto. Just slid up the track on entry, almost made contact, and that's what makes passing on the long run so difficult, and that's why there's usually more aggression on the short run, because that's when you have the good tires, and it's a lot easier to make a pass on lap 5 when your tires are just heated up and have as much grip as they're probably going to than it is at this point 35 laps into a run, and you're really just struggling to get this race car around the track sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get everything done early so you don't have to try 2 times, 3 times harder when it's like 10, 15, 20, 40 laps into a run. So you want to get everything done early, but if you do that, you burn your right front tire off or your right rear tire off, and you either can't get on the gas because you burnt the right rear tire off, or you can't turn, so you crank more wheel into it. And with the way, if the setup's building tight and you crank so much wheel into it, if you unwind the wheel to come out of the corner, you're gonna snap it loose because you got so much wheel that by the time you get to a point, you're gonna unwind the wheel and it's gonna go left. As weird as that sounds, like the whole tight loose thing off the corner, you got so much wheel cranked into it that when you unwind the wheel, it's just gonna snap. So it seems like Jason might be fighting that a little bit, Tom might be fighting it a little bit, but Johnny's rolling good. I mean, he's had the advantage of the whole race with clean air. Clean air is king. So if Jason's got to make something happen, he's got to figure out how to make his tires better and possibly jump him on a pit strat.
Johnny Eckert right now slightly faster than Jason Gracias over the last couple of laps. He's stretched out to almost a 1-second lead now over the number 1 machine. On your screen, you're watching the battle for the 7th position. Mike Tellier has it. Tristan Maher wants it. Both these drivers been involved in some cautions tonight, as have Robert Kenny and Matthew Rodriguez, who they're racing around. Is Maher trying to work down to the inside lane? He's going to get a decent run up off the corner if he can hold the throttle down. Couldn't quite keep it with him. But that was one of the better exits we've seen off that inside lane, I think. As they got really tight there, Robert Kenny. The thing Maher's doing really well here, JD, is he's keeping it behind the 47, and then he has enough grip in those tires, he can turn it down on the corner exit to get under Tellier onto the straightaway.
You see one thing he's doing right there? He's trying to make the bottom work as best as he possibly can. As the 47 got a piece of the contact almost. But he's trying really hard to make that bottom work. He might be shifting a little bit as well. He's going to try to send it in there. That's going to be really tight. Oh, but he holds him out there. He's got the drive off. He got it work. Power to him, man. Like that was whew. That was something.
The slide job didn't necessarily work, but he pushed Tellier up the track, took his grip away, and makes the pass. Tristan Maher now up to 7th. He brought Robert Kenny with him as well, because Tellier got really slowed up out of the corner. And now, Robert Kenny going to make a big charge up to the inside. I kind of think Tristan almost gave him that position. Now he crosses him back over. That 17 just got slowed up on the straightaway. He looked all fine in that position, and then the 34 just blasted right by him.
One thing that Tristan's doing is I hope, like I said earlier, I hope it's not a sound glitch, but he's shifting, and if you can save your tires and keep the tires underneath it, you can get away with making shifting work. And he found a little niche line. He found this massive cutback line on both ends of the racetrack to where he can get away with doing that downshift to cut across the seams and use that apron line to his, not necessarily the apron, but that flat part of the racetrack on the bottom to his advantage. But it's going to be to one of those points to where if you keep doing that, you're going to burn your stuff up more. And now you're heading to this point to where you have to lift and shift. So if you mistime your shift and you're at the peak of RPM, you're just going to do and then next thing you know, your whole rhythm's wrong for off the corner, and you lose time like he did to Robert Kenny. And now I would be frustrated. I'll be like, why did I shift? Right? But he's still doing it. He's making it work. He's got a lot of drive off. They're running up on the gentleman, Vincent Valvano here, as Robert Kenny makes a dive on the inside of turn 3. It's gonna be like, these moves are tough. Like, you have to be really patient to make some of this stuff work.
Really hooked that yellow line well through the inside of 3 and 4. I kind of think he hit the downshift right on the entry, because you saw the rear end step out as soon as he turned into the corner. I have a feeling that was definitely a downshift. Now Maher throttles it up through the corner, tries to make it 3 wide out of turn number 2. Valvano got out of that mess, said, no thank you, I don't want to be 3 wide 50 laps into this run.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be either. These guys are all sitting on top of the racetrack right now. Tristan's trying to get that bottom line to work. As you can see, you can hear him just starting to feed a little bit more throttle into it. But since you're in that torque band of the motor, like you don't want to really overstep it with the low gear. And like even with getting down, and if you're using the downshifting on entry, like using the engine brake, you might be doing some very, very slight unfeelable wheel hop, and you're just wearing your rear tires out even more. Like it's a fine line, but we're getting an education here to see if this shifting is actually going to work.
I really like the way that 17 car handles. He's really able to make that inside lane work. Didn't quite get the run there he wanted, but that is a smooth handling race car that he really seems to be able to put where he wants it. And that's not an easy thing to do when you're this far into a run. Also worth noting, Bill Edwards in the chat, the engine overheated for him. He is now out of this race. An unfortunate night for your points leader. I know he had a fast race car, just a victim of circumstance here tonight. None of his doing. And now they flip as Maher drives to the outside of Robert Kinney, and he'll complete the pass that way.
Yeah, I don't know if that was intentional or not for Robert saying, hey, you're faster than me, but I don't want to give you the bottom, and I don't want to keep holding you up. He may have tried to roll the bottom to see if it had anything in it or not, and he doesn't have any practice doing it in this race. Tristan's been doing it for the past few laps, so he knows like how much throttle to feed it, how it's going to feel, how to react to it, and Tristan's like, you're gonna give me the top? All right, that's like a fat kid at the buffet, and they just laid down some fresh meat. Like I'd take that in a heartbeat. So he ripped around the top and got the spot. So it seems to work. But now you got Tristan with clean air. He's able to do what he wants. Maybe he can pull that 4 1/4 second gap to Jake and see if he can close it in. But it's getting really close to this window here. We should be probably seeing pit stops in the next 5 to 10 laps. So you got to get all you can or try to get it early.
Your race leader, Johnny Eckert, has been out 61 laps. All your top 3 drivers are at that point in the run. We thought the fuel window was about 60 to 65 laps, so we do have to assume they'll probably be pitting pretty soon. And they are also within the window to make it to the end of this race. So that opens the possibility of Jason Gracias maybe wanting to come in just a lap early, cut down on this 1 second gap. Tom Bourne in second, same thing, 3 seconds behind. The rest of these drivers have pitted more recently than that during all those cautions we have. The most recent pits are Tristan Maher and Robert Kinney, who we've been watching race. Also Jamar Dumas. They've only been out 46 laps. So 15 lap fresher tires. Then your leaders is Jason Gracias going to be the first taker down pit road. Mike Tellier also.
Yeah, this is going to start to shake it up a little bit. This is going to be the domino that starts knocking everything else down. Like you can't, as Johnny, like he stayed with you for a little bit. He's got 1 lap on you. That's already a 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. You got to react to that like now. Like you can't wait any longer. Like unless you're that confident in your long run pace, this next run is gonna be about the same. But the more laps you put on the racetrack, on the disadvantage of tires, the worse off you're gonna be, because you have to make that up at some point. And if you're gonna give up 2-3 laps, that's already like 3 seconds, 4.5 seconds a lap. That's gonna be tough to make up.
A lot of drivers down pit road. Tristan Maher, Matthew Rodriguez, Vincent Valvano, and Jamar Dumas, among others. And I am surprised that the 90 is continuing to stay out on the racetrack. Tom Bourne pits from second place, because we've seen the fall off. You know you're losing time. Maybe he's thinking there will be a cold tire caution or something. We've seen pit strategies I don't necessarily understand from the booth here tonight, but that strikes me as a little bit unusual, because he came out quite a bit in front of Gracias, and now you see that one already going to unlap himself as contact, I think, between those two.
Yeah, that's another problem with being on this awkward strat. Like there's so much of a speed differential between the two. that it's like you don't want to do stuff like that. Like you could be going at like 50% and still run over the car in front of you like he did. Like I know Jason didn't try to actually root him out of the way, but it like it almost looks like it because of the time difference between the two is just so big that you just can't you just misjudge the closing rate. If I were the 90 car, I would be like, hey, crew chief, can we like pit now? Because we're putting ourselves at a hell of a disadvantage through this race by just staying out this long.
Looking at the drivers who have stayed out, your top 3 are the Outlaw Racing cars, Johnny Eckert, Jake Bustos, and DJ Weeks. So you have to imagine this is a team strategy that they had talked about, they agreed on. But situationally for Johnny Eckert, being the race leader, I don't know that this one's going to be in your best interest, because at this point, too, you've covered overtime, but if we were to get that, you want to pit for tires anyway. Also, not having pit yet, Steven Doziak, Bob Giaquinto, and Jason Schue, also Robert Tripp and Philip Scott, are both a lap down. They have not yet pitted. Philip, 10 laps down. So he is repaired and on the racetrack, but pretty out of this race, but looking at that team strategy, JD, do you like sticking with your teammates, working together? Do you think, hey, maybe I should break strategy in this situation?
I don't mind team games. Like, I can understand trying to make stuff like that work, but sometimes you just have to fend for yourself. Like, if this was an actual planned strat to keep the 3 team cars out, this isn't a super speedway. It's the 97 cars ducks onto pit road. That apparently the team game's out the window at that point, or unless he's thought for himself, it's like, yeah, no. I'm losing too much time at this point. Because last time by, Johnny was 1.4 seconds slower. This time by another second slower. Like, 1.3 seconds slower. Like, you just can't give up that much time. Like, it's insane. I would love to be proven wrong by Johnny. I don't know if this is gonna work. Like, it's out there in left field. Like, if he catches a caution at the right time when everything cycles out, more power to him. But he's losing a lot of time as laps goes on. Now the birdies are yelling at him. Now he's headed to pit road.
Yeah, I think that's the point. You've run about as far as you can, too. 70 laps on fuel. I don't know that he could have made it much farther. His teammate Jake Bustos will remain on the racetrack and pick up a lap lead bonus point here. But Jason Gracias consistently running about a second and a half faster per lap. You had a 1 second gap going into this. We'll see how it shakes out.
Oh, it's going to be a huge gap.
I would think.
Like, Johnny's just left pit road and Jason's just exited off of 2. Like, that is a huge time game. And it's like, yeah, you could gain it back, but you got to let this thing play out all the way, maybe to a second pit stop. But you don't have that second pit stop. The 1.2, 1.3 seconds a lap that Jason was gaining, you're only going to gain about a half of that a lap. But then the lap times are going to even out. So you're not going to have that much time left. There's only 55 laps left. Like, you're going to have to let this thing play out to the end and maybe get there.
Well, this is one of those moments where I normally say, I'm not the racer, the crew chief, I'm just the broadcaster. So these guys definitely had a plan as Jake Bustos now pits. They stuck to it. But it handed Jason Gracias a 3-second lead over Tom Bourne. The gap now between Gracias and Eckert is about, as things shuffle through, I think it's about 7 or 8 seconds that separate these two race cars, with Gracias way out in the lead.
Yeah, last lap, Jason had a 3-second lead over Tom, and then another 3.5 on top of that to Johnny. Like, that's a long time. Like that's like 6, 7, 8 laps of really busting your tail trying to make something happen. But you can't do that because you burn your tires off. Like, when a track like this, when your fall off's like 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, it's like you can't really stretch that out. Like unless the fall off happens really really quick, then maybe you can make that work. But like the fall off drags on through the whole run, and just it's like a linear line, just straight down to the end of the run. There's no cliff late or early, so you like your window should have been like 2 or 3 laps, not 10.
The last 2 laps are the ones I've been paying attention to. The 90 of Johnny Eckert was about a second faster than Jason Gracias, but I think that's a little bit less toward the 7-lap fresher tires than it is the fact that 90 probably in a position he is pushing that car pretty hard right now. And also, if you're Jason Gracias, you've got a gap to work with, and with a driver as talented as Gracias, that's not something you want to hand somebody. Again, I don't mean to be like too critical of the pit strategy. I don't want to come down super hard on those drivers, but Jason Gracias certainly the benefactor of this green flag pit cycle. We'll go ahead and take you through the field now so you know where your favorite drivers ended up shaking out in all that madness. Jason Gracias leads Tom Bourne in 2nd place. Johnny Eckert now in 3rd. He's catching up to Tom Bourne, just 4 seconds behind Jason Gracias right now. In 4th place, it's Robert Kinney battling with Tristan Thuggy Maher, you see on your screen. DJ Weeks runs in 6th. Matthew Rodriguez, it's been an eventful night for Rodriguez, but he still runs in the 7th position. Mike Tellier behind him in 8th. Jake Bustos is 9th, and Vincent Valvano rounds out the top 10. Then it's Jamar Dumas in 11th, and he is the final car on the lead lap. Bob Giaquinto in the Tabletop Trio machine in position for the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award. Maybe not for long, though. See Steven Doziak right behind him trying to take it away. Also 1 lap down, Jason Schue. 3 laps down, Robert Tripp. And 10 down, Philip Scott. Those are all the drivers on the racetrack right now. Out of this race, Bill Edwards, Stephen Morgan, Johnny Williams, and James Lorello. 16 drivers still on the racetrack. As the battle for second getting pretty good here. Side by side down the front straightaway. Johnny Eckert on the inside, and this is a pass you need to make very quickly if you're Eckert, because if Bourne can hold him back, which it doesn't look like he's going to be able to, that's just going to burn those tires off. So that was a critical pass for Tom Bourne. Now he can set his sights on Jason Gracias. You have about 40 laps to run down a 2-second gap up to that race leader.
Yeah, one thing that I don't mind when it comes to this game or racing in general, being proven wrong. I don't know if the damage that Jason has on his right front is actually hurting that car a lot more than I thought it would. But that 90 car is about to make me look like a fool, and he's gonna get there handedly at this pace.
You and me both.
Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna work, but I think what hurt Jason a lot was the fact that he couldn't bust through the traffic and make up more time. Like, it would have been a lot more difficult. Like, the lap difference now is, it was originally like a second, like a few laps ago. Now it's a half second, but Johnny's got a tire advantage. Like, I would be like, you're gonna get there. Like, there's no point in trying that hard now. Just go about 80%. Like, I used that advantage last week. Like, I didn't need to try that hard once cycles happened because they had to get to me. Like, I don't need to burn my stuff up. Like, Johnny knows he's gonna get there, make me look like an idiot, which all the power to him. But hopefully Jason puts up a fight, because we're either gonna see a really good show or this is gonna be a runaway by Johnny.
Yeah, this battle for the race lead on, it doesn't look like it's gonna be much of a fight right now. Is that 90? Just pacing so much quicker. And again, go back to, we are the broadcasters tonight, not down there on the track. Obviously, he felt something, thought he could stay out long. Gracias gets high off the corner, and that is pretty much going to do it. The 90 of Eckert back into the race lead. What a drive from him. Ran him down from 6 seconds back in just about 20 laps. And now is back up into the race lead. Well, for him, actually, 13 laps. Gracias, 20. So, new race leader in the Dunay Jewelers 150. It is Johnny Eckert once again.
Yeah, the top three have what seems to be a 15.8 second lead over fourth place. Like that is incredible right now. These top three had decided, yeah, there's a race going on. We're not letting you guys participate in it anymore. You're just gonna be here on the scoreboard. That's it. Like these top three have checked out and gone. Like, they are a half a lap behind. That is insane.
Just great pace we've seen from these drivers up front. Watching a battle for that fourth place position about half the track behind your race leaders. Robert Kinney in fourth place. Tristan Maher has been putting a ton of pressure on the back bumper of him. DJ Weeks running right behind them as well. And he's running similar pace to his teammate Johnny Eckert. Jason Gracias has also picked it up a little bit, only a couple tenths off of that number 90 machine. But Eckert has the benefit of fresh tires up front too, as Kenny hard into the wall. A great job by Maher and Weeks to avoid that. That could have easily been a caution.
That could have been very simulatedly expensive, and probably changed this. It would have changed this race up drastically. I don't know if anybody's got a set of tires left. I'm assuming everybody's got at least one. But you're kind of stuck in that awkward spot, as you would be forced to take that set of tires. But there's enough time between that and 150 to where you should probably keep that extra set. So that would have thrown a big wrench into everybody's plans.
Yeah, we stay green through that, and you talk about the half a track lead, that immediately goes away if we get a caution. And still, about 33 laps to go in this one, 32 when they cross the line there. There's a lot of time left for something to happen. So if you are Johnny Eckert up in the race lead, you have a 2-second lead now over Jason Gracias. Incredible pace from Johnny Eckert up front. But there is still a lot of time for something to happen. You've just got to keep running smooth, consistent laps and make sure that you aren't the thing that ends up going wrong and bringing out a caution. As he works his way through lap traffic too, which is, this point, that's his challenge, is keeping it clean through the lap cars.
Yep. And to touch back a little bit, speaking about things that could potentially go away, where'd Garrett go? Garrett? Apparently they opened up the catering room and he's down there or something. I saw him disappear a little bit ago, and homie didn't even bring back us a plate. Like, he just said, "Peace out, I'm out of here."
Yeah, I checked a little bit ago because I was gonna bring him in when we were talking about the pit strategies, and he had left, saved himself from being proven wrong by Johnny Eckert potentially. And he's back chatting with some of the TNR guys while they race. 30 laps to go now in this one.
It must be nice just to be able to, walk out the back door of the announcer's booth and being able to get to the catering table before everybody else. Like, it'd be nice to, get a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos before they're gone. But nope. No. You ain't going to bring anything for us. He's going to be like, nope, peace, I'm out.
Yeah, no. So, sometimes it's just like that, JD. Sometimes it is just like that.
It really do be like that at times. But, you know what? We get to see a race. That's fine. He can pig out and eat all the chips he wants. We'll sit here and watch the race on the racetrack. That's what we're paid to do, right?
That's exactly right. And I'm impressed, looking back out at the racetrack, too. These two haven't really broken away from each other. The 17 of Tristan Maher and the 97 of DJ Weeks. They've been running very close together. Even after the Robert Kinney into the wall incident, they've stayed within a second of each other. And Maher stretching it away a little bit, and we've seen the great pace from Tristan Maher here tonight. He's just been a victim of some bad circumstances. The way this race car is handled, he is a driver who probably could have been up battling for the race lead were he to get a little bit better track position from the start, I think.
Yeah, I guess you can say he's just been thugging along all race. Yeah, never mind. I'll go back. I'll see you later. That was pretty terrible on my part.
At 150 laps, not every line's gonna be a good one.
Especially if you try to do the Ross Chastain line, the Hail Melon. Yeah, that don't work here. Not in this car. That's another line that don't work.
Yeah, no, that line not really going to work at New Hampshire, but you see that 17 pushes the line up the track a little bit more than everyone else. And that's something we've seen some drivers experiment with tonight, is to push it above that third groove, which you can see the discoloration in the asphalt where you get that really high groove. I don't feel like many drivers like to go up there typically, but we've seen some people experiment with that tonight. Maher did it a little bit there that last time by. The battle for second place beginning to heat up between Jason Gracias and Tom Bourne. Bourne has run down Gracias a little bit. These two pitted around the same time, so about equal tires between these two drivers, only a 2-lap difference. And you see Bourne, he entered really low, slides up versus Gracias, who entered a little bit higher, more in the middle. So even at this point in the race, you've got drivers thinking that different lines are better, and that's one thing I really like about New Hampshire, is how much you can really pick and choose where you drive on this racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, they, like you said, they only pitted 2 laps apart from each other, and like it's getting harder and harder for Jason to get consistent. And I think that damage that he's got on the nose of his car and on the right front fender, with this paper mache of a race car, like it's hurting him a little bit. He's losing downforce. He's losing being able to potentially seal the nose off with the splitter a little bit. Like it's gonna hurt. Like you might not feel it at the beginning, but when everything slows down, the nose starts to lift up, the fuel starts to burn off. Like that's when you really start to feel the pain, and it's not a fun pain at all when you just stuck out there in this Xfinity car and you just got no center speed, no downforce. You're already dragging yourself down at the end of the straightaway. It's a pain.
And you're sitting here really hoping for a caution here. But as this green flag run goes on, drivers get spread out. The chances of that happening just get lower and lower. Really, your best chance for a caution right now is this battle for second place. If these two were to get racy and potentially come together, you also have a decent battle between Maher and Weeks still here for the 4th position. Weeks starting to run down Tristan Maher. Saw somebody got really down low on the straightaway. I think it was Steven Doziak a little bit up ahead of these guys. But these are your 2 battles on the racetrack right now. Everyone else, for the most part, pretty spread out. Robert Kinney and Jake Bustos, about a second between them here for the 6th position. And then you have Matthew Rodriguez in 8th place, rounding out the drivers on the lead lap. And when you only have 8 cars on the lead lap, JD, that again just goes to show the pace that your race leaders have. And not too far out the back bumper of Matthew Rodriguez is Johnny Eckert. He's gonna be looking to put him a lap down here pretty soon as he stretches out now a 6-second lead over Jason Gracias. Just continues to impress.
Yeah, if I was one of these 8 cars that are on the lead lap, I would hope that I stay one of those 8. I wouldn't, or at least less than that. Like I'd rather be one of the 5 or 6 at this rate. Like I would not. I hate getting laps in situations like this. Like there's one thing that burns my ego more. It's just getting lapped, like just on outright pace, or even more so like potential bad strategy call. Like we kind of both did here. Like we didn't think this was gonna work, but here we are, 90 car. Just excuse me, yeah, all windshield. Just go ahead and like start painting my name on the canvas here, because unless we get a caution, he is gone.
Yeah, he is continuing to stretch out that race lead, still running faster than Gracias and Bourne behind him. And there you see now coming up on Matthew Rodriguez. If you're the 51, how hard are you going to race here to stay on the lead lap? It doesn't look to be that he's going to race him that hard with just under 20 laps to go. Not too much to race for, and he's got a ways to drive before he gets to Jake Bustos, so you're still going to have that Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award potentially were something to happen. But, I mean, if it's me, I don't want to get in the leader's way at this point, because he's just really in a league of his own. Just
Yeah, if I was in the situation of Rodriguez, I would just succumb to the fact there's a race going on and I'm not a part of it anymore. But as far as a lucky dog point of view, if we get that caution, Johnny's got a long way to go. So I wouldn't slow us up either way. I would have just kind of let Johnny do his own thing like Matthew did, and just hope and pray that those two in front of you that could take that lucky dog position away from you or can hold their own for the next 15, 16 laps, and hopefully somebody else can't, so we can get that yellow flag waving. But the way everybody's kind of spread out right now, knock on wood, we're all sitting pretty around here, and ain't nothing gonna happen.
Yeah, we got through that string of cautions about lap 30 to 50 there after the stage, and then since then we've had what we've come to expect from the TNR Grand National Series this season, and that is a massive green flag run to the end of this race. And again, not there yet. Anything can happen. We've seen it happen before, but if you're Johnny Eckert, you like what you're seeing out front. Of course, I always thought when I was racing and in the same position he is, and you can talk about this too because you've done it way more recently than me, I almost felt more nervous when I was out in a massive lead like this, because I'm just thinking, oh, please don't let there be a caution, because that's really out of my hands.
Yeah, you're just hoping that everybody just holds their own, realizes that the race is almost over, there's nothing to grab, like you just sit there and just cruise. Everybody just get the job done. Let's just get to the end so I can go home after I do these nice little burnouts on the front straightaway. But I'll say from example last week, like the whole stereotypical, I'm hearing things like what's going on. I started driving a little funky, and I'm like, why is it driving this way off of 4? Like, did I burn my right front off? It's getting tighter off of 2. What am I doing? Johnny might be feeling that, but with how big of a lead he has now, it was 5.8 last time by. Like, he's just vibing. I mean, I hate to be the hip guy. I'm the old guy, but he's just riding the vibe train right now. He's just out there minding his own business and clicking laps off.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he needs to do, and it's really all he can do with the lead stretched out as far as it is. Watching a pretty good battle still between Robert Kenny and Jake Bustos here on the screen. Both those cars with some damage you can see as they drive past our cameras. But there are very few race cars on the track tonight who don't have at least some damage on their race cars. Seen quite a bit of little bits of contact, and then the occasional hard contact into the outside wall or into another car for some of these drivers. Bustos getting pretty close to that rear bumper. I think these two probably going to get racy here. 12 laps to go.
Yeah, this might be our only spicy bit left on the racetrack before we start thinking about like what we're going to do for post race. But Jake's trying to make that bottom line work. Like I can tell that he's inching harder and harder and harder, but he's backing his entries up. He's letting Robert do his magic in the center of the corner. And here we go. He starts to look underneath him. He's trying to get the run off. He starts to slide up a little bit into the wall with the 34. Jake with a nice run down the back straightaway. 34 trying to make up for it because he knows if he can pinch him down there, he's going to make it work, but it might have been too big of a dive. 74 clear with coming to 10 to go.
Yeah, Bustos just did a great job taking advantage of the situation, but he slides up out of turn 4, and Robert Kenny back up the inside lane once again. And just like that, we continue to race here. Thought maybe Kenny was going to settle, but they reversed the roles. Now Kenny on the inside, Bustos on the outside. That was a moment there for Robert Kenny there out of turn number 2, and then Bustos almost did the same thing up out of turn number 4, but they keep it green, keep it clean. But this definitely getting really racy here for the 6th position, as I think, again, Kenny got a little bit loose out of turn number 4. Right back to the bumper, though.
Yeah, like, this is getting a little bit more spicier for my liking, because look who's right behind them. The leader. I would be fuming with these two racing as hard. Even though if one was my teammate, I'd be like, can y'all figure it out? Because I don't want to have to avoid you guys. Like, just go run away. Like, I'll give y'all $1 if y'all can stop doing this, right? Like, cause I would be fuming, but Jake got clear. Like, he's gonna start trying to tie the shoes a little bit, starting to run a little bit. If I were Johnny, I just, I'm like, I'll be trying to pop some popcorn off of the headers and just have a fun time watching this little battle in front of me and praying that it doesn't get any more spicy than it already is.
Johnny Eckert is in a position, he's 9 seconds now in front of Jason Gracias. He can really sit and watch this battle unfold. He doesn't have to push the issue and go and try and pass them. It would be a very different situation were Jason Gracias a second or two behind him. But that's the benefit of just having this pace he's had on this final run, is he's able to sit there if he wants to, although it doesn't look like he wants to because he continues to close in on these two. And luckily for him, things have kind of settled down, at least for the time being. I don't think that's because he's there, more of just they push so hard now their tires are both overheated. Coming to 6 laps to go though, 5 laps to go for your race leader, Johnny Eckert, as he works his way now right to the bumper of Robert Kinney. He has to be very careful here because keep in mind, these two in front of him are racing for position. And they're not just going to stop racing for position because the leader's right by them either. They're racers. They want to get around each other.
Yeah, as the leader, I wouldn't want to be doing this, but so few laps to go. But there would be a point in me, it's like, all right, I need to dispose of you guys. I don't want you guys around me anymore. 34 lets him go a little bit, now closing in on his teammate, so Jake might make it a little easier on Johnny here, try to pick and choose the right spot to where it benefits both of them the best. But that, like, Johnny's at that point, he's like, I just need to get rid of you guys. I'm over it. As he goes for the hell of a dive, and he'll obviously clear it with the better tires and everything and whatnot. And he's going to be coming to the line with 3 laps to go, and there's not a car in front of him.
Now, clean racetrack now in front of Johnny Eckert. That's exactly what he wants to see. Once he got around Robert Kinney, he was okay because you know your teammate's not going to force the issue with you here in this position. Or at least they shouldn't force the issue. And from here on, you just have to hope for the next lap and a half there's no caution on the racetrack. Once you get the white flag, you know you're okay. But this is probably the most nervous he's been in this run. Just needs one more green flag lap and he has this thing locked up.
Yeah, I don't think anybody on Outlaw Racing is as bad as Junior Motorsports is right now with teammates trying to cause their own problems. So with Jake just sitting back there, he'll be able to watch his teammate drive off into the sunset and claim this victory.
Robert Kinney fallen pretty far off Jake Bustos now, so that no longer seems to be an issue. The next car up is about 6 seconds in front, so that is not going to be an issue for Johnny Eckert as he takes the white flag in the Dunay Jewelers 150 at New Hampshire. Just smooth through turns 1 and 2. Smooth through turns 3 and 4. All he has left to do. You and I both questioned it as he got pretty loose there. That was a little bit of a moment for Johnny Eckert, but he gathers it back up. You don't need to be pushing it quite that hard here. But you and I both questioned the pit strategy, thought maybe he had thrown it away, but he proved both of us wrong, and he will win the Dunay Jewelers 150 at New Hampshire. Congratulations to Johnny Eckert, second place. Jason Gracias, he'll get it spun across the line just for good measure. Tom Bourne drives past him, finishing in third. Tristan Maher will finish in fourth, and DJ Weeks in fifth. The only cars on the lead lap in this race, the top 5.
Well, all 3 Outlaw guys finishing, or sorry, 2 out of the 3 finishing on the lead lap, with Jake being the first one a lap down. Like, and this wasn't just one of those wins. Like that last run, that was just a hey, I'm wearing high heels and stomping on all of you. So congrats to him. He definitely proved that. He proved us wrong, and he's about to burn those fresh tires that he had to the ground.
Yep, Johnny Eckert gonna do some celebratory donuts here in New Hampshire. We're gonna step away for just a second and come back with the post-race show here from New Hampshire. Welcome back on the World Racing Network. Time to get the post-race show underway, and we are going to kick things off with the driver who finishes in the third place position tonight. That is Tom Bourne. Tom, you guys had a great night of battling, especially you and Jason Gracias there all race long. Had some good fights. You come home with a third place finish tonight. Just take us through your race and how you tried to manage that run toward the end.
Ultimately, I was going to try and undercut the guys in front of me. I tried to stay behind them as much as I could, and then the car just lost all grip in the rear end coming to that final pit stop. So I had to come down a little sooner than what I wanted, and Jason ended up hitting a couple laps before me, and that got him about 4 seconds ahead of me, and I wasn't able to run him down. Basically, the same thing happened on the last run that I did the run before, where I just lost all grip in the rear end and wasn't able to get the drive off.
Obviously, then, difficult track conditions managing the tires over these runs. And we had some instances, too. We had a lot of cautions come out, and all the heat cycles on the tires had to make things difficult for you guys down there.
Yeah, it definitely did. Track position was a lot tonight. It was almost impossible to pass unless you had a big tire differential, as you saw Eckert just drive by me and Jason. But overall, it turned out to be a solid run. I kept the car clean all night long, and just moving on to next week, see what we can do.
Yeah, looking ahead to next week. Well, we got an off week coming up next Monday night, but then we will return and we will go to Talladega, which has got to be both a blessing and a curse because, anybody got a shot to win there. You could very well walk out of Talladega in victory lane, but you could also wreck that race car. But Talladega, you going to look forward to that one?
Super speedways are kind of just a hit or miss with me. As you saw from the Daytona doubleheader, I finished second in one race and dead last in the other. So it's really all where you are when the wreck happens and whatever happens, wherever the cars go and all that. But hopefully we'll be there at the end, and and hopefully we can make a good push towards the playoffs.
We are looking forward to that one. Should put on a great race. Before we let you go here tonight, though, Tom, give you a chance to shout out anyone you'd like to.
Yeah, just want to thank Sky Motorsports. Another very good car. Seems like this is becoming a trend. It's just whether we get wrecked or not. Ghost Energy, back on the car. First time on the Xfinity car. TNR for letting me race week in and week out. You guys up in the booth, JD. I know you're broadcasting tonight, but I'd rather have you on the track. Mitchell, great job broadcasting like normal. It's like the back of your hand. It's amazing. my fiance Melissa, she's always been my number one supporter, and she's always there, cheering me on wherever she is. So shout out to her and just everybody watching, and hopefully we can continue putting on a great show and keep talking to you guys week in and week out.
We appreciate it, and we're glad that you guys race every week and give us something to watch on our Monday nights. Very entertaining, as always. Again, congrats on the great run here tonight, and we're looking forward to seeing what you can do in 2 weeks at Talladega.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully we can put on a show just like we have the whole season.
That was Tom Bourne, your third place finisher. I'm trying to find Jason Gracias. He's not quite in a place I can see him. Hopefully he shows up. In the meantime, well, he is not going to. So we're going to jump straight ahead now to your race winner. All right. Change of plans, actually. Since we have Tristan, I'm making this up on the spot in the broadcast. We will chat with your fourth place finisher here tonight, Tristan. A little bit out of the ordinary, but still going to get to talk to you. And we watched you all night long. Started from the pits, didn't make the start, but you had a really fast race car. I think one of the best handling race cars on track just from looking at it. And a fourth place finish, had some ups and downs. You got to be happy with that in the end.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the fourth place. I mean, considering what happened and how much damage I had, I'm pretty happy with the fourth place. Definitely had to find some interesting lines that worked for my damaged car. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Is New Hampshire a track coming into this race you thought you might like or be fast at?
Yeah, I really love this track. In my opinion, one of the things that I do at this track to be quick at it is brake bias. Brake bias, I think, is one of the most important things at this track. And I think that I may have been running it a bit lower than most in the field tonight. And I made it even lower after my car got damaged. So it was a bit interesting, bit of an interesting drive. I love this track though. I think that the lines that you can take through the corner are interesting once tires get worn a little bit. For example, I think I came off the corner. I entered the corner high and came off the corner on the apron multiple times when I was racing other people. So it just is a little bit interesting like that.
We definitely saw that from you. Something not a lot of other guys were able to do here tonight. See if my broadcast partner tonight, JD Laird, do you have any questions for Tristan while we've got him?
I think the only question that I got is what was the thought behind starting on pit road? Was it a situation where you thought chaos was going to happen, you were going to be a part of it, or were we just chomping on the buffet line that apparently Garrett hasn't left yet?
Yeah, I might have been hanging out with Garrett a little too much. That was definitely not on purpose. We normally don't have crazy chaotic starts in this league. So that was a pretty big mistake on my part. I put myself at a pretty large disadvantage. And honestly, the only reason I probably got into the wreck that I was involved in with Robert Kenny was because I was already working at a disadvantage starting from pit road. So no, that wasn't on purpose. But I'm a little hungry sometimes.
Yeah, I totally understand. It would have been nice to had something, but I guess Garrett still hasn't come back. He hasn't brought me a bag of chips or anything.
Dude, I told Garrett to make sure that he grabs something for you guys up in the booth, but I don't know what happened. He must have found Doze's girlfriend or something.
He had one job, and he didn't do it.
Well,
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I know. We've been sitting up here. We looked for him, was going to talk to him, and then he left. It's okay. It's all right. We give Garrett the night off. I know he's a little under the weather. Tristan, moving on to Talladega in 2 weeks after the off week next Monday night. Are you looking forward to going super speedway racing again?
No, not really.
Honest.
Yeah, I mean, I love racing. Super speedway racing is definitely one of like the classics of oval racing in general. Um, I just think that it's a bit of a crapshoot whether or not you actually make it to the end, and if you want to ensure that you make it to the end, then the rest of the race is just kind of boring because you just kind of sit there and ride around and try to preserve your stuff. But yeah, I'll be there and I'll do my best.
That's Talladega, always from the broadcaster seat. Always a fantastic race. So we're looking forward to it. Maybe get to talk to you again there. Before I let you go, though, here tonight, though, we'll give you a chance to shout out any sponsors or any other drivers or whoever else you want to, because the mic is yours.
Yeah, good a shout out Radius Racing. Got them on my Chevy Camaro here. Cam Caldwell for the sick paint job. It's not often that I say that I'm satisfied with the fourth place finish, but I think with how this race went and with most everybody being lapped out, didn't even see that. I'm not ashamed to have them on the car or have my car where it was. TNR, it's a fantastic league to race in. If you guys are interested, then look us up on Facebook, find us on Discord, and shoot us a message, and we'll get you hooked up. And then obviously you guys up in the booth. I heard JD talking at one point saying that he was calling somebody crazy for listening to the broadcast during the race. I was one of those people listening the whole time. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got.
Because I know you were active in the chat earlier, too. You called Garrett, or no, you called JD out, or you said you weren't a Coke driver when he said you were doing the Coke. And then you did fight with Garrett a little bit, so I knew you were out there.
Yeah, Garrett was telling me to not be aggressive, and I told him not to tell me what to do,
I could never listen to the broadcast when I raced either. I sometimes wished I could. All the credit to you, because you got more talent to multitask than I do. But again, congratulations, 4th place tonight. Got the interview too, which is always fun, and we're looking forward to seeing you at Talladega.
Hell yeah. We got to shout out Jason too. Jason did a good job with the second place finish, but he had to leave.
Yeah, that again, Tristan Maher, 4th place tonight, stepped in. Jason Gracias could not do his 2nd place interview. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for after a little bit of delay, Johnny Eckert. First of all, I have to say, I don't know if you listened to the broadcast while we were doing it, but when you go back and listen to it, we got to apologize on behalf of me and JD because we were a little bit overcritical, I guess you could say, of your pit strategy. We were like, what's he doing staying out so much longer than Jason Gracias? Then you come out, you're running over a second faster per lap, and you end up winning by almost 9 or 10 seconds. What was the strategy call there like first to stay out a little bit longer, even though maybe that kind of defies a little bit of what we would traditionally expect?
Yeah, so early on I was running, I had to run a little bit harder than I wanted to. I knew I had pace, but like it for me, I felt like I had to hold on to what I had. I mean, the lap 30 stage was important for me just to get the stage points, and since I was able to take the lead going into turn one, I felt like I had to hold on to it as long as I could and see what would come of it. And yeah, so as the run went on, like I felt like I was burning off my tires a little bit more than I wanted to, and I struggled a little bit. But I felt that towards the end, um, Jason and Tom, like either they were falling off or their tires overheated or whatever. I wasn't really sure what was going on, but I felt like I was able to pull a little bit of a lead. So then when he pitted on, what was it, 94, 95, I felt like I was in good position because then, as Kevin Harvick said on the weekend in the Cup race, he'd rather be the aggressive one. So I felt like that when having the fresher tires and being able to get into my own rhythm, I'd be able to run laps that I needed to. And yeah, I was pretty comfortable with it after a couple laps after the pit stop, just because I felt like I was making good time, and the tires. I felt like I had a better handle on the tires at that point in the race than I did earlier on.
And you certainly executed the strategy exactly right. We were a little nervous for you in the closing laps. You were working your way through lap traffic, and there you were closing up on a good battle between your teammate and also Robert Kenny. Were you a little nervous going through lap traffic, and were you communicating with your teammates about the situation and the pit strategy and all those things?
Yeah, I mean, we were all kind of in different boats. We all had different situations. Jake hit the wall. DJ had hit it in a different way, and I think everybody just kind of was running their own races at that point. So our strategies kind of diverged from each other. DJ, I think, pitted and had a little bit more fuel than I did. So, I mean, we all pretty much had the same goal, and I think we're kind of all right. We're gonna just be the aggressive ones at the end of the race and see what we can get out of it. Um, but yeah, catching like I wasn't really too worried about a lot of the traffic, because once I got past Jason and I knew that I still had life in the tires, I kind of made sure that I didn't push myself into a sketchy position. I didn't put anybody else in a position that was going to make them uncomfortable. So I didn't want to overdo it. But yeah, the only concern I had was the battle between Jake and Kenny, because I didn't want to get in between them. Last thing I wanted was to be the determining factor on who got the position. So he I was kind of letting it go, and then once Jake got by like 2 or 3 laps before I got within range of Kenny, and it looked like that he was starting to gap him a little bit, so I took my chance then, and uh, yeah, a little bit of communication passing Jake when he called it out. He told me, yeah, just go low last second, but we got through and we were good.
Yeah, and it all worked out for you perfectly fine in the end. You pick up what turned into a very dominant win here at New Hampshire. Looking ahead, an off week next week, but then it's Talladega, which is very unpredictable. You feel like you've got a good chance to put your car back up at the front at Talladega?
I mean, anything's possible. It's Talladega. I mean, you got to make it to the end first. So I think that'll be the goal. But we'll see what happens. I got 2 great teammates to work with, and we're usually pretty on the same, pretty in sync, on the same page with what we're doing, especially in the plate races. So I know we didn't have the best runs at Daytona at the duels at those 2 races, but um, I think we're a little bit better, I don't know, formed, I guess, in the league now. I think we know a little bit more about the guys we're racing against, and I think we'll be in. Hopefully, as long as we make it to the finish, hopefully we'll still be in with a shot at it.
It should be a great race. Talladega always is. Before we let you go, bask in the glory of your win here tonight, give you a chance to give some shout outs to anyone who might be watching.
Yeah, first off, thank you guys for broadcasting. Thanks to the league for putting on the show. Thanks to the race sponsor and the league sponsors for all that they do to support the league. Got a huge thanks to my teammates DJ Weeks and Jake Bustos for all their help tonight. I mean, at one point, I felt like I was kind of annoying. They were talking amongst themselves about their thing, and I was answering. So, but I want to thank them. Looking forward to going to a track that I think the 3 of us will have a little bit more fun on. I enjoyed tonight; the other 2 not so much. But yeah, we're looking forward to it, and yeah, I'm happy to go kick my feet up now, because this is tiring.
Yeah, we won't hold you here any longer. Congrats on the win tonight, and again, looking forward to seeing what you can do in 2 weeks' time.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
And that was your race winner here tonight, Johnny Eckert. And JD, that was a great run from him here tonight. Managed the strategy very well. Again, you and I both thought For a little bit there, maybe he had made a little bit of a mistake staying out, but he knew exactly what he was doing and comes away with a very good race win here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like to be. I have no shame in being proven wrong in anything. I'd rather be proven wrong than not proven right. He made me look stupid. I didn't think stretching it that long was gonna work, and he made it work handedly. So shout out to Johnny and coming up with that strat. I mean, if I was in the race, I probably would have. I don't know if I would have tried to stretch it as long as he did, but if I didn't, I probably still would have lost because that was pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. I will take you through your finishing order here from tonight's race. The Dunay Jewelers. I keep missing up. I want to say jewelers and then I want to say jewelry, and so I do a combination of the two, and it's been kind of weird all night, so I apologize for that. But I will take you through the finishing order of tonight's race. Johnny Eckert picks up the race win over Jason Gracias in second. Tom Bourne in third. Tristan Maher was in fourth. Talked to him as well tonight. Then DJ Weeks rounds out your top five. Jake Bustos in sixth. Matthew Rodriguez in seventh. Robert Kinney in eighth. Mike Floppy Tellier ninth. And Jamar Dumas, the last car, in the top 10. Then in 11th, it was Vincent Valvano, Steven Doziak Jr. in 12th, Bob Giaquinto 13th, Jason Schue in 14th, Robert Tritt 15th, and then Philip Scott 12 laps down 16th. Bill Edwards, the first DNF of the race, had an engine blow up on him from some damage, 17th. Stephen Morgan ended up 85 laps down 18th. Johnny Williams, also an early retirement, 19th. And James Lorello had some kind of technical issue. Don't know exactly what that was yet. Hope everything is all right for him. He finishes in the 20th position. But that about does us here in tonight's race. The Dunay Jewelers 150. Again, we have to give a big thank you to Dunay Jewelers. They've been family owned and operated since 1963. They do a lot more. They sell jewelry, they do repair, and they do more than that. So you can call them 570-822-5511 or visit DunayJewelers.com if you are anywhere around the Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania area. But JD Laird, it's been a pleasure to have you up in the broadcast booth with me. A little bit of a pleasant surprise, didn't expect. Not that I don't enjoy Garrett's company each and every week, but it's been a lot of fun having you with me. Any other closing thoughts from tonight's race before we go off the air?
You guys are probably going to be in for a treat for Talladega. The way Daytona ran with the twins, which I was not really for. I don't know if we're doing that again, but that was kind of a nice change of pace. But Talladega is going to be interesting to watch. They're usually a little bit chaotic in the Xfinity cars, so you fans that are watching now are probably going to be in for a real treat. Lucky for you, hopefully you don't have to hear me again, except in a post-race interview or a mid-race interview if I turn myself into a Christmas tree ornament, whatever comes first. But it was a nice change of pace. I didn't expect to be up here all race. It's not my first time broadcast or as a commentator. I did it in another league on Wednesdays for an All-Star Open. So it's not my first rodeo, but hopefully I brought a little bit of a different perspective to you guys. Not saying that you or Garrett don't do a good enough job, but it's just a different perspective. It's a spotter's point of view. It's kind of like let's say a cup guy coming down and just giving another insight. Like it was fun. Like it was nice to be able to kind of elaborate more instead of saying this is what's happening, this is why it's happening. It's kind of helping to say the story. And sometimes when I talk, sometimes I don't shut up, or most of the time I don't shut up. So it's good that the broadcast is almost over because man, I'm tired of hearing myself talk.
Well, again, I know we didn't expect the full race, maybe just the 15 or 20 laps or something at the beginning, but it was very fun, and you're always welcome back here in the broadcast booth. I'm sure Garrett didn't mind doing whatever he spent most of the race doing, but That
Probably eating at the buffet table. I am
that's
really
the
upset.
rumor.
I want my darn chips, and I ain't gonna get them. They're gone.
Maybe WRN, we can hit a little Circle K or something on the way out of town, get you some chips.
I might be able to find some Pringles laying around here somewhere. I think I have
Probably.
it. I have a can. I was sorry. Tennis ball can contain chips. I shouldn't plug a company that isn't involved, but I have one of those kind of chip containers over here that I could probably get into. But that's for later when the broadcast goes off the air.
Well, and there's not too much longer to wait for that, because that does wrap us up here for the Dunay Jewelers 150 at New Hampshire. Again, thank you all for tuning in to the TNR Grand National Series presented by Schue Lawn Service. Big shout out to all the sponsors who make this possible: Schue Lawn Service, Tabletop Trio, Stay Tuned Sports, and again, tonight's race sponsor, Dunay Jewelers. And for all of us at WRN, myself, Mitchell Adams, my broadcast partner tonight, JD Laird, and also Garrett Gleason was here for a little bit tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time at Talladega. Until then, stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you next time.